Today is the 30th Sunday of Ordinary Time, Cycle C. The first reading from the book of Exodus tells us of God's love for justice. He commands the Israelites to treat aliens fairly and justly, as they, the Israelites, were once foreigners in Egypt, where they were welcomed but later enslaved. God warns the Jews not to exploit widows and orphans. He commands them to lend money to the poor without interest. If a poor man has to use his tunic as collateral for a loan, give it back to him at nightfall. For although the desert is very hot during the day, it is cold at night. The Lord hears the cries of the poor, the marginalized, and the oppressed. He said if you treat them badly, He will punish them severely. He shall kill the men, and then their women and children will become widows and orphans. Jesus is telling us, as He had told the Israelites, that He is concerned with the lack of social justice in various societies. Where there is no justice, those who are responsible will be punished. As disciples of Christ, we are not only called to develop an individual spirituality, we're also given the responsibility of building a society of peace and justice on earth called the Kingdom of God, in order to ensure Christ's vision for our country, given to us by our founding fathers, is faithfully preserved. Catholics need to become elected leaders while remaining faithful to the Church's teachings. Who are the poor, the marginalized, the vulnerable in our society who need our help? They are unfair structures that deny equal opportunity or equal rights. The Blessed Mother, in various apparitions, has warned that the killing of helpless, innocent babies by abortion is a serious sin that will result in castigation, divine punishment. Planned Parenthood boasts that since 1972, there have been over 60 million legal abortions in the United States of America. Such a large number constitute genocide, 1.3 million a year. As St. Paul says, sinners glory in their shame. Who's speaking up for those who have no voice? Many women are tricked and forced into a life of prostitution in America and in other parts of the world by a highly developed system which is known as the traffic of human beings. Racism and prejudice are still alive. The rich and the powerful still exploit the lowly, but by more subtle methods. For example, credit cards can legally charge you rates of interest in excess of 28%, which would, in other circumstances, would be considered exorbitant and loan sharp. Greed, lies, sexual immorality of every kind and dishonestly has become part of our culture. In order to seduce us into buying things we do not need, the advertising media, using psychologists, have crafted adverts that have brainwashed us into believing that we need lots of lovely goods to be happy. Many people have become selfish because that to have more things is important than having loving relationships. The entertainment media mocks the sanctity of sex reserved for marriage and never portrays or models the joy of a lasting, long-lasting, loving marriage. I suppose they cannot create or write about something they do not know exists. We have to promote and support only those shows and movies that emphasize our Christian values and boycott those which are offensive to the teachings of Christ. In the Gospel, Jesus tells us that the most important commandment is to love the Lord our God with all our hearts, with all our souls, and with all our minds. What does this mean? To understand what it means is to love God with all your being. You have to have loved someone dearly and passionately to understand it. You cannot endure when you're deep in love to be separated from someone, from him or her. There's a deep yearning to see his or her face, to be in his and her presence. You will wish to spend as much time as possible with each other. You lose track of time in each other's presence. If you love God with all your being, you will long for the Eucharist. You will get lost in prayer. Prayer which is speaking to him will be a great joy. If you truly love, you will not wish to disappoint the other and will never do anything to hurt him or her or those that he or she loves. You will not make a major decision without consulting the other. If you love God with all your being, you will not do anything that a son or a daughter would do to sadden his or her parents. It would pain you to know that Jesus was saddened by your conduct. Sin would be a source of shame and something you would avoid at all costs. You will make the necessary sacrifices for the health, well-being, safety, and joy of the one you love. You will even make the ultimate sacrifice of your life for the one you love, as Jesus had done for us. Love enables us to be less selfless, love enables us to be selfless. Our relationship with God, his love for us, and our love for him exceeds any relationship with another human being. Unfortunately, to love another human being with your entire mind, heart, and being does not guarantee that there will be no heartbreak. On the other hand, God's love for us is endless and never changes, and he will always be at our side. He will always, always, always